take care of death Islamically, like funeral, washing bodies, and so on and so forth. How to persuade youth to seek beneficial knowledge. I think this came from a mother who's concerned about, how to guide her kids. So, whichever of these issues that you want us to focus on is a choice that you have. So tell me uh, what issue or issues among the ones mentioned here we need. And I do have some prepared materials that relate to the tarbiyah of our children. So whichever you want me to address tonight, it's your choice. Should I repeat them again? Yes.
I'm interested about the different school of thought, like different school, Hanafi, Shafi'i.
Yeah, those are issues that are difficult to address in the form of questions, because those are scholarly issues that we will have to delve into the history of those schools and how they evolved and what produces those differences. But we can address them in general, as many would do, by saying the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us similar but different. We are made from the same materials, but we have different wants, needs, expectations, feelings, levels of understandings, levels of faculties, levels of approaching things, temperament, which influence how we conclude anything. So, for example, I could read an article and you could read the same article, but we could conclude completely different conclusions based on what did I focus on, what was important for me, what attracted my attention, what may touch my life, and that I make it the focus of my attention, right? So I influence my own attention by zooming in on things that matter to me. You will do the same thing. So our conclusion will be, this is very good article about women. And then you may say, no, this is a good article about freedoms. Because it talks about freedoms for women. I take it as an issue about women. You take it as an issue about freedom, or the vice versa. So what I'm saying is, fiqh understanding comes to that level. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. If Allah had willed it, He would have made all people one society, one community, in one direction. عليكم السلام. لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. He would have made people one community, right? وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. Even though they will continue to have differences. Why? Because they are humans. No two humans see everything eye to eye. And this is never going to happen. Abu Bakr disagreed with Umar. Some of the companions disagreed with the Prophet ﷺ in certain situations, right? Like in Hudaybiyah when he made the agreement with Mushrikeen, and in other situations as well. So, why fuqaha are different? It is because they are humans, number one. And just being a human is enough reason to be different. Okay? But above that is the fact that we have different understanding, as I mentioned, based on our different focus and our different ability to understand based on our faculties. So, you have deep reading skills. I have superficial reading skills. So when I read something, I take it superficially. You take it with the depth. So you point things to me that I didn't pay attention to. That also is one reason why fuqaha came up with different things. But much more than this, their ability to read the same ayah and see a different aspect of the same ayah also produces differences. Beyond this also, there is the authenticity of the hadith and the appreciation of every scholar as to whether this hadith is authentic or not, reliable or not, the narrators are good for me or just good according to your standards, because they have different standards. Bukhari had standards that are more stringent than Muslim. Muslim comes next, and so on and so forth. So their standards defines which narrator of hadith is more reliable and which is not. That also affects which narration they will accept as authentic and which narration will reject as unauthentic or not as reliable. So this also will produce different views. Okay, so it will be one and the same hadith that you see for one scholar, they say reliable, good, all narrators are fixed and very good. The other say no, no, no. One of narrators was said about him that he became weaker when he grew old. He started to forget. He's not as focused. He's not as sharp as he used to be. Then the first scholar would say, no, but this hadith was said when he was that old. He was not very old. So this goes back and forth, and that produces also differences of both understanding and reliability and authenticity. So those are basically the major points that produce differences among the fuqaha.
My concern is like, the Asr prayer is different for Hanafi and for Shafi.
Yes.
Yeah, and then if I follow the Hanafi Asr prayer time, and then one day if I follow the Shafi time, is it okay to like, whichever is good for me, like, okay, today I'm going out, so I want to pray Asr early, so I'm going to pray.
Well, that question was presented to the guest that we had few days ago, Sheikh Muhammad. And he said, do not jump between schools of thought for convenience. If you know what the school says and you are tracking that school as your way of life as a Muslim, then do not jump when it doesn't fit your schedule or it doesn't fit your desire or anything like this. So if you always are following Hanafi, follow the Hanafi all the way. Why is this important element? Because some schools are easy on certain things because they are hard on other things. Okay? So this is not a political balance. No, this is a scholarly search that they say, since he does this, then we would relieve him of that. So that also is an element.
What about the Jamaat? Like if I come here, I pray, this masjid pray early, Asr, and I pray with the Jamaat.
Yes, this is the way it should be. When you enter a masjid and the masjid is in jama'ah and this jama'ah is legitimate, right? It's not out of line, then you pray with the jama'ah as is. Like if you go to a court, a Muslim court, and the judge is Shafi'i, don't tell him, use the Hanafi, I like the Hanafi, or I am Hanafi. He will judge according to what he sees fit.
Excuse me,
Yes.
is it right that if I have to go somewhere, I can offer Asr prayer before going out if there is a risk that I might miss the Asr time?
That's a good question. That is true provided that you don't make it a habit, because this will run contrary to the Quran. The Quran says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. That prayer has been set on schedule by Allah. So if we keep violating the schedule, then we are in violation of the Quran itself. Just to understand the value of this ayah was sent to the Prophet, sent down to the Prophet ﷺ in the context of praying during the war, during the fight, in the battlefield. فإذا أمنتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. When you feel safe, pray, but just on time. Okay.
So like Maghrib, it's like once in a while, not a habit. Like sometimes it happens that suppose I myself am driving, there is nobody else and I'm in the traffic. And then I see that I thought that I would reach by Maghrib, but because of the traffic I'm getting late. So in that moment, what do I do?
You make the intention to pray Maghrib with Isha when you get home. It happens from time to time, yes. Yeah. But what is the difference between this and what we said before? The difference is this is something that got imposed on you all of a sudden. But don't plan all together that whenever I find the convenience to do what I want to do at the time I want, I ignore the prayer schedule time and I shift it according to my liking. That's the difference. Yes.
Like if someone travels from one state to another state, it takes a long time.
Yes.
Or
Unless you're coming from DC to Virginia.
no, like traveling to other country.
Yes.
So like in the plane. So is
Yes.
it allowed to pray like during that time of the flight, Zohar and Asr together? And
Yes.
Okay.
Discuss it.
Yes, that's appropriate because you're traveling.
We do it. Yeah.
Yes. Good.
Just like it. When we're praying, we have to close the gap, right? When we're standing praying, we close the gap.
Yes.
And some sisters, they start the line from far right, and some they go and start in the middle. So this sister was behind the first row, she started in the middle. Sisters came and they started far right. And they asked her to move closer. Since she was by herself, she moved 3 steps towards them. There was still a gap, she wouldn't move. When the prayer was over, she came and she said that the school of thought she follows, it doesn't allow too many movements, and maximum is 3 movements.
Right.
So is it more important to close the gap or follow this school of thought?
Well, what is important is to start to learn how to set up a new line. Because the group that went all the way to the right or all the way to the left, in my study, they are in violation of the direction of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that the new line must start behind the Imam. Okay? And then it goes right and left. Some people fill the left because it's close to the door and they ignore, that's true, and ignore the right. But the right is where we need to fill. Not that to fill all the right all the way, but one to the right, the next to the left, one to the right, one to the left, so the line grows normal. Okay?
Certain masjid I have seen that they deliberately say that start from the left.
Yeah.
Like Darul Huda, they tell that you come to the left. They bring us to the left side.
Yeah. The Quran says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. And in that way, we have made you as a nation of middle ground, moderation. Okay? And this has always been the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Whenever he has a choice between 2 things, he chose what is easier. So what is easier according to his direction is to fill the middle and stand behind the Imam.
Yeah, it's supposed to be behind the Imam, but in this case, she made 3 steps and she wouldn't go any further, and there was a gap.
She will need to leave the prayer and move all together. And what was supposed to happen is that people who went all the way to the right, they should have come to the middle.
She was already praying, right?
They're all praying. So the group that came and went all the way to the right, there were more, she was just one person. And she was right behind the Imam, she was doing right. But the group who went all the way to the right, before they said Allah, they said, sister, come closer. She moved a little bit, but then she wouldn't move any farther. And then her explanation was, whatever, if there's a...
Yes, beyond 3 movements, she's out of the prayer. So if she agreed that going to the right is the right thing to do, and it is more than 3 steps, it's easy. She can just make salam and join the prayer anew and be with the group.
One more thing I have confusion, like if I join the Jama, but I missed Surah Fatiha. So
That's okay.
it's okay, I don't have to read Fatiha.
Well, if you miss it, like for example, if the Imam goes into ruku'ah and you join after he already is in ruku'ah, you join and then you go for ruku'ah. You miss al-Fatiha, you miss whatever, and your prayer is okay, because catching is to catch a rak'ah. What is a rak'ah? A rak'ah starts with ruku'ah, right?
But there is another thing that the prayer is nothing without Surah Fatiha. I mean, maybe.
This is for the people who would stand and not and deliberately not want to read al-Fatiha. But you missed al-Fatiha, but you did not want to miss the rak'ah, right? And this is the right thing to do. The Prophet ﷺ says, anyone who misses part of the prayer, he should join wherever the prayer is and make up what they miss. So if the Imam is in sujood, I go into sujood. Some people, unfortunately, they don't know this. So what they do is, the Imam is in sujood and they wait until the Imam goes up and then they join the prayer. That is not the way it's supposed to be.
So if we go in sujood, we will do the ruku again at the end?
No, you will not do the ruku'ah. This rak'ah is missed because you missed the ruku'ah. The rak'ah is called if you catch the ruku'ah, right? So if you catch the ruku'ah, you catch the whole rak'ah and you don't repeat that rak'ah. But if you go any part of the prayer after the ruku'ah is finished, then that rak'ah is going to be made up because you missed the ruku'ah.
Like first rakah naturally doesn't have jalasa. I mean, there is no tashahud.
Yes, you miss the first rak'ah.
Rakah, so when the imam is saying salam, I have to stand up and do the first rakah, right?
Right.
So after sujood, do I say tashahud and then offer salam, or I just do sujood and then I offer salam?
After you finish the rak'ah and you finish reading the entire tashahud, you make salam as normal. That's it.
No, I'm saying like suppose Maghrib, I got 2 rakah, I didn't get the first rakah. Suppose I joined in the second rakah.
What you're going to be praying is the second rak'ah with the imam, the third rak'ah with the imam. Those will be your first and your second.
Oh, okay. So I stand.
So you don't make up the first rak'ah you missed. You make up a rak'ah in its place, which will be your last.
Got it. Okay. I didn't know this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just, one day in the line, upstairs we praying Salah, we're supposed to carpet, they have a line to, everybody will stand up, the line will be straight. But the sisters' line cannot be straight. One going this way, one going that way, crooked this and that. That's the way we pray. If you try to tell them that go in the line, straighten them up, follow the sheikh, follow the brothers the way they line them up, then the prayer is going to be acceptable. But they can pray anywhere they want it. Either in front of you, she's praying right there, and one of them praying behind all of us like a sabana, snake, like this and that.
You mean the line is not straight? Okay.
Problem we have that, Sheikh Shakir, you have to
Yeah.
issue folks upstairs what's going on.
Inshallah.
Even if you say,
You know, there is a problem with the women's prayer area. One of the problems I know is that people do not listen to each other. Even if you appoint somebody, and that somebody is directly appointed by you, and is saying the imam appointed me or the administration appointed me to make sure this and this, they don't listen. So it looks like I need to speak about this every prayer until people settle. Yeah. It took us 6 months to address the issue of the cell phone ringing in the prayer. It took us maybe 6 months, maybe a year.
No, upstairs still the Juma prayers go off, but now we have a sign. I showed them like this.
and still goes
Now the
up.
telephone is not ringing, but still is ringing when you're talking in the Jum'ah prayer. 5 or 6 of them. Ring, 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 ring. What can I do?
Sheikh Shakir, another issue that we have, especially Jum'ah prayer, khutbah, talking.
Yeah.
When khutbah starts, from what I understand, If you talk because the khutbah is integral part of your prayer,
Yes.
if you talk, it's like you void your prayer.
No, you void your Jum'ah. Yes, yes. And what is void is the reward. But this doesn't nullify the prayer itself. It just nullifies the reward. But technically, you don't need to repeat the prayer. Yeah.
But I think some people don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, so we need constant reminders. You know.
I will ask the administration, I did before, to put a sign on the screen telling people, please stay quiet.
One of your question was like how you answered the question regarding jihad to the non-Muslim.
Well, I don't think that it's easy to address this issue in few sentences. This issue is very loaded, and anyone who's asking about it, they have done their homework. So if I, as a Muslim, did not do my homework and try to just pepper some answers, they are not going to do the trick. So we need to study our religion deeper and wider. So I promise you to get you a presentation on Islam and the use of force. Okay, when is it allowed, when it is not allowed, what are the conditions, and our relationship with non-Muslims in general. So these are two presentations that inshallah one day I will be able to bring it to you. I have them already, but I need to work on them on the upgrade of the program.
And the holiday season is coming, so in the office, like we will have the parties and everything. So is it permissible to attend those parties? Like they don't call it like Christmas party or anything, they just call it holiday party, or sometimes they have alcohol, sometimes they don't have alcohol. But I usually don't attend those parties, but I don't know like if...
Well, I believe that we need to take a clear stand as Muslims regarding those issues. Yes, we have people celebrating their own perceived celebration days and holidays and stuff. So what is our position as Muslims? Do we celebrate anything that we label as non-religious? Well, the Arabs used to have celebrations. When the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, he found them celebrating certain days. And he asked them, what are those days? They said, those are days that we celebrate for this and this and this reason. People celebrate them. He says, Allah has substituted for you two better days, the day of Al-Fitr and the day of Al-Adha. So as Muslims, those are the days we should celebrate. Okay, and I'm saying we should deliberately. Because if we don't celebrate those days, our kids will have no other days to celebrate. Also, in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told us Allah is the one who designates Eid days. So he says, Allah has substituted for you two better days, which means that authority to designate a day as a day of celebration is up to Allah. So Allah wants this authority to Himself. And He tells us through the Prophet ﷺ that it is Allah and His authority that designate days of Eid or no Eid. Now, if I tell the community, let us celebrate this, then I am designating Eid day other than what Allah designated, right? Whose authority I am kidnapping? I am kidnapping Allah's authority, right? No Muslim in their right mind, if they know that this is what it is, would ever do that, right? Now, your question is not about Muslims inventing days. Your question is about days that have been invented by other communities. Well, that's even worse off. If I'm not allowed to invent a day, but then I join anybody's days and celebrate, that means I have no reference as to what days to celebrate, which I actually do. I have Allah as my reference. I have the Quran, I have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as a matter of faith, we should not join in celebration any days that people designate other than the days Allah would accept to be days for celebration. Why? Because let us talk, for example, about the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ, which Muslims love the Prophet as nobody else loves nobody, right? But despite all of this love, and we all love him, we do not celebrate his birthday because, number one, it is not approved by Allah. Number two, he himself never celebrated his birthday. Number three, the companions who love him more than anybody else never took his birthday as a day of celebration. So what would be our reason to celebrate and designate his birthday as a day of celebration? We find none. So Muslim scholars agreed that designating a day as a holiday and celebrating that day as the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ would not be consistent with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? So we don't celebrate the birthday of the Prophet. So somebody would come and say, what about the birthday of Isa? And if I want to equate Isa with Muhammad, I wouldn't celebrate the birthday of Isa either. Right? So if somebody says, why don't you celebrate the Christmas? What is a Christmas? They say the birthday of Isa. I say, yeah, but I don't celebrate birthday of prophets. In general, none of them. Why? Because Allah doesn't tell me to do that. So we need to have a stance that is recognized in Islam, in our Islamic tradition. Now the question is, if I stumble into something without pre-planning, into something like this, then I have to check if it does have anything haram, like alcohol being served, music being played, dancing being, offered, then I should bail out because those things are inconsistent. Okay? But if I stumble into a party made in the office because one new employee joined or some employee is departing and we want to tell them, goodbye or something, that's okay. That's not a problem. Because we are not going to designate that day every year to celebrate. So these are temporary, intermittent, infrequent occasions that we can participate in. But any day that is designated, we cannot participate in it with deliberation. But if I stumble into something, that's okay.
Yes. Frequently our kids, children, sometimes they say, oh, this day was boring. This particular day is really worse than other day. So we normally respond to that. We just give them some guidance that, but what is the appropriate response should be?
So the question is, sometimes our kids say, this day is boring and worse than other days and stuff like this. So what is the appropriate response? Well, we need to teach our kids that days and hours are gifts from Allah. Life is given to us in increments of not years, days. And those days are divided into hours. So if I give you a gift and you tell me it's not really useful for me, it depends. What do you want to make out of it? Right? So the day is a gift from Allah. You can make it a pleasant day, you can make it a miserable day. It depends how you use it. If you use it for obedience of Allah, for helping your parents, for doing your homework, for connecting with good friends, for studying something positive, for reading a book that will teach you something, then it becomes a productive, pleasant day. If you use it for fun and pleasure and things like this, it becomes a pleasant day. Why is it when you use it for something beneficial or serious, you call it a boring day? Because your inclination for the comfort zone is greater than your inclination for success. Your focus on joy is greater than your focus on success. And this is something you have a choice to do. You can always love nothing but what is fun and hate anything that is not fun, and this will make much of your days very miserable, because life is not just for fun. Fun is only part of life. So if you want to turn this life into fun, then look at real examples in life. One of the examples I always like to present is sliding boards from high mountains down to the slopes, right? Could you enjoy this without climbing the mountain? Huh? Does it take you the same effort climbing and sliding? So the effort to climb is always greater than sliding. Where do we go when we climb? We go to the top. Where do we go when we slide? We go to the bottom, right? These are choices. So by practical look at life, life is telling us you put so much effort to get up before you can ask to enjoy the 2 minute sliding. So our ummah has been sliding for centuries, right? And now when we ask people to climb little bit, they say it's hard. I know, honey, it's hard, but you cannot slide any further down. You're down in the bottom. There's nothing to enjoy. Okay, very good questions. Any other questions?
Have any arrangement for teenager kids? I mean, they need to listen to these things actually. They don't like it to hear from us. I mean, it's not really
Exactly.
sweet to.
Oh, you assume they would like to hear it from me, right? Huh? Well, we do have a meeting every 2 weeks with the youth. Some of them attend, some of them don't. It's a choice. It's an open session for anybody. And I hope that those who attend can give me the feedback as to what we're doing, how we are faring. Is this something beneficial to the rest of their friends or not? So I'm, waiting to hear from Abdullahi and Sarah and others.
Every other Sunday.
Yes. The week we have this meeting on Thursday. The Sunday before we have the youth.
It's same week. Sunday there is the youth, and then like this past Sunday they had it.
Yes.
Thursday we have it in the same week.
So the next Sunday we will not have the youth, but the following Sunday we have the youth.
If you leave your number, there is a group that Sister Iman manages. She can add you to the group because she reminds, and then the youth Sarah and Abdullahi.
And how the topics are selected?
Well, actually, what I am doing with the youth is I am taking them through the Quran, because our youth, even those who memorize it, and some of the people attending are good memorizers of the Quran, they love the Quran. So I tasked myself to explain it to them so that they can enjoy what they are already memorizing. So I am focusing on the Quran, taking them one page at a time, and we reached about 100 some ayahs in Surah Al-Baqarah now.
Yes.
So my question, we're told that from Allah the Prophet that innovation and bid'ah leads to misguidance and that can lead you to hellfire.
Right.
But my question is there such a thing as good bid'ah? And I ask because during Ramadan, during Umar's time is when he made the praying, or from my understanding, he made the praying all 30 days of Taraweeh together in Jama'ah.
Yes.
So it wasn't something that was a sunnah of the Prophet. And is that considered an innovation or something because it's not from the Quran or Sunnah? And then if so, are there good bid'ahs? What qualifies as a good bid'ah?
Okay. Everybody heard the question? Okay. The question again briefly is about bid'ah. Is there such a thing as good bid'ah versus bad bid'ah? And when Umar ibn Khattab allowed the Muslims to get together and pray Taraweeh for 30 days, which was not done by the Prophet ﷺ, is this a good bid'ah or not? Well, the question is very intelligent and very good. Thank you, Sarah, for this. Bid'ah is when you do something in which you institute ibadah that the Prophet ﷺ did not instruct us to do and he himself did not do. Okay? So bid'ah is to go either against the Prophet, the established sunnah of the Prophet, or to add or subtract from ibadah what shouldn't be added or what shouldn't be subtracted from it. When it comes to the Taraweeh, the Prophet ﷺ is the one who made it a sunnah. So he led the Taraweeh prayer sometime with companions at his time. But then he stopped and he let them do it as individuals. And when they asked him, they said, "Why did you do it, Prophet Muhammad? Why did you stop?" They enjoyed praying with him. He said, "I was concerned that it may be turned into faridah." So he stopped it with a reason. When after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, people started to think, should we do it, should we not do it, and stuff like this. Umar al-Khattab, his opinion was, there is no one who can make a faridah after the Prophet passed away. So we will do it and we'll do it in Jama'ah. So besides, Umar qualifies to set up a sunnah because the Prophet ﷺ says, "Alaykum bisunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa al-rashidin al-mahdiyyin min ba'di." Follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs after me. So Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali, they are authorized by the Prophet ﷺ that what they do with their own ijtihad as a way of doing things is to be acceptable as a sunnah for the Khulafa al-Rashidin. So this is not anybody, and they did not initiate something that never existed. They only made it possible for everybody. Umar, what prompted Umar to do it is that he saw that people were praying everybody alone. So he said, why don't we put them all together and benefit from the best reciter in the community and let everybody join hands in this. So he went back to what the Prophet did. All the difference is he let it stand for the whole month because it's secure. Nobody could make it faridah. Unfortunately, after we clarified the issue, unfortunately some people come and they are so keen to catch the Taraweeh but not the Isha. And many people come in Ramadan because they believe Ramadan is a season for ibadah and they come for Taraweeh. But other days they don't care if they miss Isha after Fajr after Isha. Yes.
The Christian and Jewish nowadays, like, are they like Ahl Bayt still, like, can we?
You mean Ahl Kitab?
Can we eat their, like, some people eat their chicken and they said that since they are Ahl Kitab, so we can eat their chicken. So is it halal?
So the question is, are the Christians and Jews today to be considered Ahl Kitab as it is mentioned in the Quran, whereby we are allowed to eat their food, the animals they slaughter, so long as it's not pigs, of course? And the answer is yes, they are. Based on what? Based on the Quran. The Quran that called them Ahl Kitab, right, is the same Quran that told us in the same surah that if those who say that Allah is Isa or Isa is Allah, they have committed kufr. Right? So we know that people of the book will worship Isa because they confuse him with God. Right? So what would make them not qualify for being people of the book today that they didn't do then? Actually nothing.
So if I ask directly, like if my child wants to eat chicken of McDonald's, do I allow or I don't allow?
McDonald's in particular?
For example, because they asked,
Well, yes and no. Yes, because so that we do not become making haram what Allah made halal. And no, because if our children get used to this kind of fast food, it is very unhealthy and very bad for their future habits. Later on, they get married and become grown up adults, and they still want to go to McDonald's, like some of us do.
But it is halal, right?
Yes. But this is different from the burger. Listen to this one. Burger could be mixed, okay? But also grilled stuff can also get mixed with pork, with the lard, because they grill everything on the same surface. So our children do not know none of that. So unless you educate them, it will be difficult for you to convince them. So we need to talk with our children about this. And one of the things they can help us with is let them do research about fast food, how good or bad to our health it is. And when they get the research, you will have materials to tell them, read it, and you know.
Actually, sometimes they do research even more than us. And they tell us that in this, like Subway, they are not mixing the chicken with anything, so is it halal? That way. Like they are very sure that there is nothing with it.
Well, if they are that thorough, then their judgment is going to be your judgment.
So we accept it.
Yes, of course, yes.
Challenge here, I mean, not challenge, I mean, the perspective is that in a society or in an environment where halal foods are available,
Yes.
much more available than those
Yes.
other kitabs. So then what should we really give?
We should direct the next generation to not squander the investment our community has put for them. Our community invested a lot of money to set up halal stores, halal slaughterhouses, halal chicken slaughterhouses, all of this. So we should tell them, for your health, for your deen, and for your children's deen, do not squander all of these great investments, because other communities are following the rules. Jews eat kosher. Christians eat pigs. They eat whatever they are told it's okay by their church. It will only be us who have no boundaries. Right? And if we do this, we will only support businesses that do not serve our purpose, and we will kill the businesses that were set exclusively for us.
Second question.
Sure.
If the animal has to be slaughtered in the name of Allah to make it halal.
If you slaughter the animal, you must mention the name of Allah.
Okay, and if the Ahl Kitab, they don't slaughter the animal with the name.
Yes, that question was raised by none other than Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet and the mother of the believers. She told them, O Messenger of Allah, we get meat as gifts from people of the book, and we don't know whether they mentioned the name of Allah or they didn't. He says, you mention the name of Allah and eat it.
So it doesn't.
Sammu antum wa kulu. You mention the name of Allah and you eat it. Definitely provided that it is not mixed with pork or lard.
So it's not necessarily at the time of slaughtering. Before you eat, you say Bismillah yourself.
Well, when we Muslims slaughter, we must slaughter in the name of Allah, unless you inadvertently forget. But it has to be deliberate, and we have to make tasmiyah. This is called tazkiyah, which means purification of the meat. Okay? And adhab has a method to drain as much blood of the animal as possible to make it healthy. The more the blood that you drain out of the body, the better it becomes health-wise. Okay? So it's spiritually cleansed by the tasmiyah, right? Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. And it is physically cleansed by the way you slaughter and let the animal drain the blood. So two purification processes at the same time. Okay, very good. Any other question? Yes.
Going back to the holidays,
Yes.
at the workplace is a customary thing that co-workers do at Christmas time to exchange gifts. There is something that they call Secret Santa. So everybody buys a gift for it, and then there's a gift they make a tree at work and they put it under the tree and has your name. What do you do?
It has your name? Ah.
Because, this person buys 3-4 gifts for the co-workers, but you don't know who it came from. So, there are gifts that, they exchange and everybody gets a gift. And there's one for you there too. What do you do?
I wouldn't want to participate in this.
Okay. Okay, I tell you what I do. I take it. I don't buy at Christmas time. I buy them gifts at Eid.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in Christmas, but I don't want to be rude. So I take the gift, but then I exchange it during my holiday.
Yeah, this will be like a holiday competition. Like not in your Eid, but in my Eid. So I don't want to celebrate your Eid, but I want you to recognize my Eid. So I wouldn't want to participate at all in it because number one, it plays into the American tradition, which is conformity is your only way for acceptance. And this is very intimidating. So if I want to effect a change in the society, it is this. I don't want conformity to be my ticket into your acceptance of me. I want you to accept me for who I am, and I accept you for the Christian you are. I have no problem with this. I don't want to convert you. I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to intimidate you. But I don't want to be intimidated into conformity. Because much of the people who do this, you will find among them the atheist, the agnostic, everybody. What are they doing? They don't recognize Jesus altogether, right? Some of them ran away from the churches years ago, right? But they are doing it out of intimidation. They don't want to be singled out as odd or what you call rude or mean. Well, rude and mean are labels of intimidation unless they really apply. If I say something rude or do something rude, call me rude. But if you want me to comply and conform to your expectations, otherwise you label me as rude, then rude becomes a label for intimidation. I believe as a society, we should let everybody be free. This is what Islam teaches. Let there be no compulsion in religion. That's a form of compulsion. Yes. But it is a social compulsion. It's not a compulsion into religion. But it is compulsion nevertheless. Yes. I would rather take it as an opportunity and say, my dear friends, brothers, colleagues, sisters, here is why I believe we should set ourselves free from habits that we inherit in this society. Conformity takes a toll on everybody. Some of us may be atheists, some of us may be Jews, some of us may be non-believers altogether, or of other faith communities, and this becomes an intimidating process when we set a standard of expectations of everybody to do one and the same thing in one particular occasion. So I want to share this with you. In my faith, we do not compel you to either give us gifts or accept our gifts in our days. This is something very intimidating because it means if I do not do the same and reciprocate, I could be judged as bad-mannered. I will take her in the back first, yes.
Yes, going back to the prayer.
Mhm.
On Friday prayer, the khutbah is mandatory. Is it mandatory or?
It's part of the prayer.
Okay. So if someone misses the khutbah, all of it,
Yes.
and they arrive either at the tail end when the imam is finishing, or they arrive when the prayer starts.
Yes.
When do they do the 4 rak'ah? It's like if they miss the khutbah, do they do the 4 rak'ah? Or if they caught a little bit of it, they still just pray 2.
Some scholars say, and those are the majority, if the person catches the second rak'ah, which is the ruku'ah of the second rak'ah or anything before, then he doesn't need to pray Zuhr.
In Jamaica.
In Jama'ah or alone. Because there is no Zuhr Jama'ah on Friday. Okay? So, I will repeat this so that it's clear. If you miss the khutbah, but you catch the whole prayer, your prayer is okay. It is Jum'ah prayer. Okay? If you catch 1 rak'ah, then it is also Jum'ah prayer according to majority of scholars. Okay? But there is that opinion that if you miss the ruku' of the second rak'ah, then you need to pray Zuhr. 4 rak'ah.
So definitely then if you miss the khutbah, but you come for the full 2 rak'ahs, like the beginning of the first rak'ah,
Yes.
then you're fine. You just pray the 2 rak'ahs.
Yes, you miss the khutbah.
Yeah.
No, you miss the khutbah and the reward for the khutbah.
But you don't have to do the 4 rak'ah.
You don't have to do 4 rak'ah.
Only if you miss.
If you miss the 2 ruku'as.
Then you pray your 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My question is about migration. Like
I lost the second word. You said my what?
migration.
Migration.
So like
Sisters, do you know why people talk in the Jum'ah? Because they have something to say. And indeed, that's exactly it. They have something to say, they feel they cannot put it off. So go ahead.
So I'm saying that we come from Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries, but suppose I cannot follow my deen for certain reasons, political reasons in my country, but I feel I can follow my deen here, but this is a kufr land, I'm following my deen better, but in that case I know that we are not supposed to permanently stay in a kufr land. We cannot do hijrah to a kufr land as far as I understand. So in that case, like what should I do? Should we go back? Or, will Allah accept it if we can follow our deen over here? This always makes me feel bit.
Sure. The question is, can we stay or live permanently or migrate permanently to a non-Muslim society? And this is making the sister feel very uncomfortable, because there are scholarly opinions that say that is prohibited even until today. Well, what is a Muslim land? A Muslim land is defined as a land that A, either applies all of Islam, like ruled by Islam and Muslims, B, a land where any Muslim can practice their deen unhinged and uninterrupted by anybody, right? Some put other conditions, that they can raise their children as Muslims and not lose their Muslim over a period of time. So, when we see, for example, the context of the hadith, the hadith was made in Medina, and it was to tell people who already migrated or became Muslims in Medina not to go back to the land of Mecca where Muslims were still under persecution. Do you understand? But for example, we know also that the Prophet ﷺ sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal, right, to Yemen, which was not Muslim, and he lived and migrated to Yemen. He sent Abu al-Ala al-Hadrami to Al-Bahrain, right, also to make da'wah. Umar ibn Khattab sent a whole army to protect merchants who were doing business in India and Asia, and their caravans were hijacked by people where they are going through the villages and the towns. So he sent an army to secure the Muslim trade. Okay, so Iraq was not a Muslim before Muslims opened Persia and Iraq. It was one piece of land. Okay, Egypt was a non-Muslim land until Muslims came from Arabia and entered into Egypt and taught people Islam, and they accepted Islam. So what I'm saying is, if this prohibition were a blanket statement for all the ages, all the time, Muslims wouldn't have done none of that because it's prohibited. But there was a reason. The Prophet didn't want people to go back from Medina to Mecca where they were persecuted. Okay? And this led scholars to say, wherever Muslims are persecuted to the point that they cannot establish prayer, they cannot practice their faith, they need to leave to a land where they can. I hope this answers the question.
A beautiful example of that is are the Muslims that live in China.
Yes.
I forgot the name of the state, but they're,
Uyghur.
I think the security forces removed the mushafs from
Yes.
their libraries, and they can't fast during the month of Ramadan if anyone's caught fasting.
Well, but Muslims in the communist countries in the past, they have managed to overcome those issues. Muslims under the Soviet Union, in the stands, they used to have one room underground that is exclusively made for prayer, for teaching Islam to their children. That's how, when the Soviet Union collapsed, they were able to come out, and we found that they are still Muslims as their forefathers were. So I believe that if every time we get persecuted, we leave, then people will keep persecuting us until we have no land to call ours. So this is only a license when it becomes impossible to practice your faith.
That is the dilemma. Like suppose our country, they will let us pray at home, everything. But if there is an Islamic school, they close it. If we try to make our kids grow up with a proper Islamic personality, they do not do any intellectual Islamic practice.
Can we follow up on this next time, because Isha is on, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.